UFC Fight Night Vegas 71, Pavlovich versus Blaydes took place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main events, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Brady Heistand versus Danaa Batgerel. I went with Danaa Batgerel to win this fight, and I thought he was going to win this one by KO, and he nearly got it, dropping Brady Heistand early in the fight, but Brady Heistand comes back in the third round, and it's sad to see because Danaa Batgerel, he has all of the ability early on, and he just seems to slow down and get a little bit sloppy, and in the third round, Brady Heistand, early on the feet, wasn't really doing too great. I think he got caught with some decent shots at the start of the round, but you could see him just feinting at Batgerel, and then Batgerel would just like throw a sloppy jab out there, and you could just see that he was absolutely exhausted because he's only a pro fighter. How's he supposed to go 3 rounds? Pay him more. They deserve more money for not being able to go 3 rounds. So either way, round 3 started to slow down a lot, and Brady Heistand got the takedown when he needed it. Shout out to Brady Heistand. Great comeback KO win. Great comeback TKO, should I say. It wasn't really a KO. It was just more of the fact that Batgerel just wasn't moving from a position, you know what I mean? And it was a bit of a weird stoppage, to be honest with you, a little bit early. Not like the normal stoppages you would see where a guy's completely done on the floor or a guy is out cold face first, but, you know, just one of those stoppages where you're like, wasn't really too many great shots landing. He was landing shots on Batgerel, but it wasn't like brutal. Oh my God, ref, stop the fight, please. It was like, is Batgerel going to move and actually improve position? I guess not. He's just going to stay here for the next minute or so. Very interesting there from Danaa Batgerel. We move on to another fight on the card. William Gomis versus Francis Marshall. I picked Francis Marshall to win, and I was upset. Now, round 1, to be honest, it could go either way. Okay, Francis Marshall was a lot more busy on the feet, but he wasn't landing that much. He had a 10%... Dude, Francis Marshall averaged an 11% landing to throwing ratio in this fight. I picked him to win this. Okay, I thought he'd be able to mix in grappling and maybe catch Gomis at some point in round 2 and finish him. But round 1, very close. I gave it to Gomis. He landed a bunch of good body shots, and then he caused visible swelling on the face of Francis Marshall. I saw a lot of people saying, robbery, it should have been to Brady, not Brady, Francis Marshall should have won. And I was like, hang on. Visible damage in the first round on his cheek. Round 2, Gomis, I think, clearly won. Not impressively. It was just like he outlanded Francis Marshall again. And, like, you have to give him that round, I think. And then round 3, Francis Marshall, again, not doing much on the feet, but he gets a takedown. And he, no joke, has a rear naked choke in. It's him. It's an rear naked choke. And I was saying, he's out. Oh my God, he must be out. Because he'd been in this rear naked choke for about 10 seconds at the time. And he wasn't moving. He had his back taken. Francis Marshall had top position. Hips down, flattened out. And he had his arm under the chin. Solid in rear naked choke. Hand hidden behind the head of Gomis. Squeezing. And he just couldn't do it. He couldn't choke out William Gomis. Which is crazy. Like, maybe props to Gomis, but also, was Marshall squeezing on that choke? Like, you got to give that all you got, man. That was an in choke. It don't take much. And it's not like Gomis even, like, fought out of it strategically. It's just like Marshall was like, oh, I don't got it. You don't got it? It's under the chin. It's in. It's cinched up. Squeeze. You saw it. Pathetic. Good win from Gomis, though. We move on. Up the card. Mo Usman versus Junior Tafa. It's damage-based scoring. Junior Tafa should have won. I can't believe the referee didn't separate them at some point in this fight because Mo Usman was doing absolutely nothing in this fight. So annoying, dude. First round, he literally held Tafa against a cage for about 4 minutes. 4 minutes held him against a cage. And Tafa rocked him badly in round 1, really badly, and then sort of landed some good shots on the break of the clinch with like an elbow now and again. So he wins round 1 very clearly. Round 2 and round 3, it was just Tafa landing really good shots, wobbling Mo Usman, and then Usman getting a takedown. And then at some point, I believe in round 2, Tafa landed some more big shots. But in round 3, it was just Usman on top until the end of the round, really. But on damage, Tafa should win that, really. but they just don't score according to the criteria. If an opponent gets rocked and then lays on top of someone for the rest of that round, they shouldn't win that round. But to be fair, it doesn't look good for Tafa to be on bottom for 4 minutes of a round. I completely understand. But it's not like Usman was doing what Wells was doing, which was going for ground and pound shots. We'll get to that decision in a second. Because it's also not like Tafa was doing what Semelsberger was doing, which was dropping Wells. Sorry. That is such a bad decision. We move on though. Good win. Cut Usman from the UFC, dude. I don't want to see that fight again. We move on. Norma Dumont versus Karol Rosa. Back up. Dude, this was a really stinky start to the card. Listen, the Heistand versus Batgerel fight was alright. I didn't mind it. But man, these next 3 fights were so lame. Dumont and Rosa trading position against the cage. I had it 2-1 to Norma Dumont. And then round 3 to Karol Rosa. She won the fight unanimously. 2 rounds to 1. Good for her. Yeah. It was just Dumont outlanding her in the first. Having some good moments. Landing some good shots. And then pushing her up against the cage for the rest of it. Getting outworked in the clinch. But the significant strikes were landed by her. Round 2, similar situation. But this time she cut open Karol Rosa with a good cut. Right inside the eye. So that's a visible damage on top of being pretty even of a round. But Dumont maybe landing more significant strikes compared to Rosa outworking her in the clinch. So you give it to the visible damage rule in round 2. But very close. Could have gone either way. And then round 3. Rosa has a bit more of a moment. Drops Norma Dumont for a moment as well, which wins her that round. Norma Dumont's ass looked great. We're moving on to another fight up the card. Moving on. Montel Jackson versus Rani Yayha. This was the lock of the card. Not even a genius move to predict that. I mean, it's just... Yahya's an old man. You know what I mean? He just is an old man. He was landing some shots on the feet. He eventually went for a takedown and couldn't get it. And Montel Jackson did a very good job of defending. And then Rani Yayha was like trying to pull guard from it and latch up one of the arms, like what Oliveira tried to do to get to Gaethje. And he couldn't keep that position. And Montel Jackson sort of eventually got back up and let Rani Yayha back up. And Rani kept lunging with his shots. Kept lunging with his shots. Throwing the right hand and leaving himself open, and Montel Jackson didn't need to see that too many times before timing that left-hand counter. And Yayha swung, overswung, left himself open, counter left hand from Montel Jackson. Very clean win from him, and he got a performance bonus as well for his troubles. Very good stuff from Montel Jackson. Good stuff. We move on to another fight up the card, which is Christos Giagos versus Ricky Glenn. Glenn's done. He was injured or he's done in this sport. He looked so unbelievably slow. I can't believe he kind of beat Grant Dawson. Can't believe he kind of beat Grant Dawson. Or even like slept Joaquin Silva. He looked like such a slow old man out there who threw like a right hook, left uppercut with like right hook down by his waist. And then Giagos caught him with a left hand. It was like, boom. There he goes. Big shot from Giagos. And people are complaining about the stoppage, or he was complaining about the stoppage. I don't think people were. And he went face first into the canvas. You can't blame the referee for running to get in there, even if you were a little bit better than maybe he thought. But yeah, good job from Christos Giagos. Landed the left hand on old man Ricky Glenn, who needs to hang up the gloves. We move on to another fight up the card. The robbery of the year so far, I'm not kidding. Jeremiah Wells versus Matt Semelsberger. I can't believe people are scoring this to Wells. Media members have this 30-27. He got dropped twice. I know you were trolling me, chat. I know you were. My chat was saying, Wells won. I got caught up in the debate, but I know you're trolling me. Now we can be real with each other. I rewatched the moments. He dropped Wells on 2 occasions. And Wells won round 3. No problem, won round 3. It's not like he was destroying him in rounds 1 and 2. Like, seriously. He had about 3 minutes of control time in each of those rounds. And, like, Semelsberger on some occasions got back up. There were 6 takedowns here, not 3. So it wasn't like complete domination on the ground. Wells got dropped in round 1 and round 2. And people are justifying it somehow. It is crazy to me. And they showed the strikes on screen. And it said, like, with a minute to go in round 1... 33-11 in favor of Jeremiah Wells. And I was like, what are these stats right now? Recounted stats are 17-11. I bet you they counted live about 40. I was saying it the whole fight long. these shots of ground and pound are getting blocked. They aren't landing. A couple of the elbows were, a couple of the punches were, but a lot of them were missing. And they were getting blocked, and they weren't landing, and they were hitting the shoulder or the arm. That's not enough to win you a round back after getting dropped, and not just dropped off balance. Let me add. Nearly finished. Not just, Cruz Garbrandt, Cruz gets dropped and gets right back up. No. He got slumped on a few occasions, cracked once, a couple times in the first round, and then boom, a shot clipped him right behind the ear, behind the head. Legal shot because he was the one rushing forward, and he slept forwards, like out cold for a second. Rolled to his back, and I thought the fight was going to get stopped. He was out for a second to hammer fists of ground and pound from Matt Semelsberger. He came back to and tried wrestling, and Semelsberger was reversing position and ending up on top and reversing position again and landing elbows. And then at one point in round one, he was elbowing the side of Wells' head as he was shooting in on a takedown, and Wells went limp for a second again. I was like, there's no way Wells gets this round back unless he finishes Semelsberger or like does the equivalent of like a 10-8 round of ground and pound. He didn't do that. He landed 17 strikes. Significant strikes on the ground. Round 2, he gets dropped badly, stumbles backwards, out cold looking, with his own arm behind his back, trapped on the ground, wakes up, sees Semelsberger coming towards him, gets hit with 2 ground and pound shots, and then Semelsberger stays on top and just beats up the body. 20 strikes of ground and pound, 15 maybe, from Semelsberger going to the body of Wells. Wells gets back up, gets a takedown of his own, 3 minutes left on the clock, and just lands ground and pound, less than in round 1. The knockdown was better in round 2 for Semelsberger. He did more on top with the body shots as well. Wells did worse than round 1 in the round 2. Didn't land all of those ground and pound shots. Was landing some. 16 significant strikes on the recount. 17 in the first round. You don't win back a round you get dropped in by doing that. Worst decision of all time. Read the scoring criteria. They aren't listening, and neither are the commentators. The commentators are not taking into consideration the criteria. Immediate damage. Who's closer to getting finished is huge in a fight like that. And he got dropped badly twice. Pathetic. Wells should sue him. We move on. Iasmin Lucindo versus Brogan Walker. Iasmin Lucindo's good. Brogan Walker's terrible. Iasmin Lucindo won every single round, outstriking Brogan Walker on the feet. Got some takedowns in there as well. Took mount at the end of the fight and landed some good shots. But yeah, she's actually a pretty decent fighter. She had a very good performance, I believe, with Yasmin Uregui, I believe her name is. Yep. Good performance in that fight. Lost that fight though, but had a good performance there. Yasmin Uregui has gone on to beat Estela Nunes as well by TKO. So I thought, you know what? This Iasmin Lucindo girl is probably pretty good to hang with her for that long for a 3-rounder. So she won the fight. The coin spoke, and that was it. Very good win from Iasmin Lucindo. We move on. Up the card to another fight. Bobby Green versus Jared Gordon. This is the controversial one, right? Initially, I genuinely thought it was intentional. Maybe I'll make a second channel video on this, to be honest with you, tomorrow. Initially, I kind of suspected intention behind that headbutt, because he did ram his head into the chin of Jared Gordon. And by the way, Jared Gordon might have been up before then. It was a very close fight, and Gordon was doing very good. Bobby Green was doing pretty good as well, but Gordon landed some really big punches on the chin of Bobby Green. Green looked off. I think that's very clear in the first part of that fight. He wasn't as comfortable. He wasn't as flowy. Maybe it's because he's coming off a KO loss. He wasn't as confident, but he looked a little bit off early on in that fight. Maybe he would have gotten better as time went on, but we never got to see that. I thought it was a little bit intentional when I first saw it, but then I rewatched it and thought, you know what? He's looking for a lead elbow there. Sure, he moved in his head behind it, but he's charging in. People said left hook or a jab that he was going for, but he's looking for like a vertical lead elbow and just putting all of his upper body weight behind it just to step in on Jared Gordon, who was trying to plant and throw. And Jared Gordon like slipped away from the elbow on the inside of it and then revealed the head of Bobby Green crashing towards his face. So, yeah, big headbutt from Bobby Green. I'm not going to say intentional. It will be a debate, but I don't think it was intentional. I don't think he would mess himself up that bad. Apparently, he was being delusional afterwards, which I'll check out. I'm sure there's an interview of it. But yeah, headbutt from Bobby Green. No contest. He then rained down shots unconsciously on Jared Gordon. Boom, boom, boom. finished him on the ground brutally. So Gordon took a TKO loss worth of damage, which is sad for him. And then, yeah, sad. And Felder lost his mind. And the commentary booth, Cruz was at one point trying to make it sound like it was a left hook. I think that's what they're told to do on commentary. Like, if you don't know if it was a foul or not, act like it wasn't. We'd rather have you be wrong eventually, or we'd rather have you be wrong about it being legitimate than wrong about it being illegitimate, because they're still trying to work promos after a finish. Like, let's say that was the lead elbow of Bobby Green. Maybe they would have messed it up by complaining about the stoppage like Paul Felder was when he was like, oh, come on, after Gordon was getting destroyed on the ground. But yeah, Bobby Green, no contest. I don't know what they do. Either one of them, Paddy Pimblett next. Or run it back, International Fight Week, and then the winner can fight Paddy Pimblett. Who knows? We move on. I say either one of them do the rematch. July UFC London. Pimblett will be in the crowd. Winner calls him out. That's what I'm looking for. We move on to another fight, which was in the co-main event. Bruno Silva versus Brad Tavares. I'm not going to be too mad at the stoppage. I rewatched it. I get why the ref kind of wanted to stop it because of the way Tavares went down. But he was still in it and trying to fight. That's the sad part about it. So it was a bit early, but I understand why the referee stepped in. I'm not going to say he's terrible and bad stoppage, but yeah, Tavares was doing good, landing good shots down the pipe and good body kicks as well, but Bruno Silva actually had a bit of a power advantage in there. Landed a good check hook on Tavares as he rushed in with a right hand, and that kind of stumbled him for a second, but he got his composure back and started landing some good shots again, and then boom, he got hit with a right hand. Bruno, they were trading hooks, and Silva did a very good job of dipping out and then throwing a straight. When you get someone conditioned for hooks back and forth, he turns them into straights, which was a very good technique from him. Hook, dip back, straight right hand after Tavares missed his left hook. And he went down, but he was like circling and trying to grab a leg, and he was still kind of with it on the ground, which is unfortunate for Brad Tavares. But if there were more ground and pound shots, I don't think he would have survived. So I'm not going to say it was a bad stoppage. I did bad this card on predictions, and I was coping a lot of the time, but you know, all good. We move on to the main event. Sergei Pavlovich versus Curtis Blaydes. I'm not interested by Jones versus Miocic. I want to see Jones versus Pavlovich. Same Jones, different itch. You know what I'm saying? Not Miocic, Pavlovich. Pavlovich is a beast. Demolished Curtis Blaydes. And I've rewatched it. I've rewatched a few fights, which is why some of these videos are a little bit delayed, because I was so soy and coping about some of the results that I was kind of like blinded by cope. There was too much salt in my eyes. So that was a problem. And yeah, Pavlovich got it done. Landed some good shots. Wobbled Blaydes with a jab. One thing people didn't take note of was the fact that Pavlovich dropped him like immediately with a right hand behind the ear. So I think Blaydes was a little bit like wheezy anyway. Shot for a bad takedown, got it stuffed immediately. And people were saying, why wasn't Blaydes shooting takedowns? I even asked the same question. I think he was like, I need to get, because Blaydes shoots simple takedowns. It's rarely he has like Tom Aspinall Volkov timing. He'll shoot a double leg, drive you into the cage, and then drag you down. Like, it's not like a slick, oh wow, what a sick entry on a takedown. He'll just shoot double legs and single legs, you know what I mean? Which is good. But I think he was like, damn, this guy hits hard. I'm not trying to get hit by that uppercut that he keeps throwing. He just wobbled me. I'm not really with it right now. I just got wobbled by a jab as well. Like, I think he wanted to shoot a takedown when he was in good condition too. And I think he wanted to get respect on the feet first. But it's hard to get respect on the feet against Sergei Pavlovich. So he didn't get it. And Pavlovich walked him down, ate some shots, but gave him right back and landed that rear uppercut on the chin at range, 84-inch reach, and finished Curtis Blaydes brutally in the first round. Very good stuff from Pavlovich. Should fight Jones next. If not, make weight for that fight, Jones versus Miocic, so we at least have a backup opponent, and then he can take on, like, if Tom Aspinall wins against a Taito Ivasa or a Marcin Tybura coming up soon for a vacant heavyweight world title. And for Curtis Blaydes, it's tough because he's been KO'd a few times now, you know. Curtis Blaydes has lost a few times off the top of my head, and Ngannou once. Derek Lewis as well, brutally finished him. Pavlovich just finished him as well. Not a crazy amount of times, but like, he's taken his damage. You know what I'm saying? He's been in his scraps. He's taken his shots. And there's been a few KOs now. And some really bad ones, like the one to Derek Lewis. So we'll see what he does next. Maybe he takes on Cyril Gane in France and we test out Cyril's grappling. Who knows? But We'll see. Maybe he should be used to take on the winner of Almeida-Rosenstruik if it's Almeida. Then we'd really find out if Almeida's a good grappler or not. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Sergei Pavlovich versus Jones next, please. Not interested by anything else. Goodbye.